Hi, my name is Vladimir Rodriguez, and I'll be talking about Colgan Air Flight 3407. Now, when did this happen? Well, the accident was on February 12th, 2009, on a Bombardier Q400 with 4 crew members and 45 passengers on board, totaling to 49 people on board. There were 49 fatalities, 1 ground fatality, and 1 injured. This all occurred in Clarence Center, 10 miles or 8 nautical miles northeast of Buffalo International Airport. They were the pilots on the flight that had crashed on February 12th. On the left is Captain Marvin Renslow, and on the right is First Officer Rebecca Lynn Shaw. Captain Marvin Renslow was hired back in September of 2005 with an accumulated 3,379 hours and had accumulated 111 hours with the same type of aircraft. When the crash happened, he was 47 years old. The co-pilot, Rebecca Lynn Shaw, was hired back in January of 2008 with an accumulated 2,444 hours of flight and had 774 hours with the same type of aircraft. She was 24 when the accident had happened. Here are the two airports: Newark International Airport on the left and Buffalo International Airport on the right. Newark was the departing airport for Flight 3407, and Buffalo was the arrival airport. The destination airport has an intersecting runway. That day, approach gave clearance to land runway 23. Runway 23 or 5 have a length of 8,829 feet. Meanwhile, runway 14 or 32 have a length of 7,161 feet. The temperature was 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius. The dew point was 46 degrees Fahrenheit or 8 degrees Celsius, and winds were at 51 knots and gusting winds were at 69 knots. On this day, the weather was bad. There was snow and fog, causing the flight to be more dangerous, especially if the right precautions aren't taken. The departing airport also has intersecting runways. Runway 4 left and 22 right have a length of 11,000 feet. Meanwhile, runway 4 right and 22 left have a length of 10,000 feet. The temperature was 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 22 degrees Celsius. The dew point was 62 degrees Fahrenheit or 17 degrees Celsius. And winds were at 32 knots and gusting winds were at 51 knots. This was the departure airport where Colgan Air Flight 3407 had departed 2 hours late. The late departure was due to the weather being bad at the destination airport. The human factor of Colgan Air Flight 3407. There are many human factors that can cause an accident, but the reason for this accident was fatigue and inexperience. What happened in the beginning of the flight? The co-pilot, Rebecca Shaw, had traveled the morning of the accident from Seattle to Newark Airport. This journey of the flight caused her to sleep less, making her fatigued for the flight. On the other hand, Captain Marvin had also been fatigued. According to the NTSB, Captain Renslow had been awake for 15 hours, which was 3 hours more than recommended. What happened during the checklist part of the flight? When someone is fatigued, it causes them to not notice their surroundings. Their reaction time is decreased. When doing the checklist, her being fatigued caused her to miss a lot of the important parts of the checklist. If both pilots were rested, the checklist part of the flight would have been done correctly. Due to them having a lack of sleep, they went through the checklist without making sure everything was done. The weather at the departing and landing airport. At the arrival airport, there was a light snow and fog. If the right precautions were taken during the checklist, the accident could have been avoided. Now, how does snow play a role into the accident? Snow is extremely dangerous for unexperienced pilots. Colgan Air Flight 3407 is a major example of this. The captain did not get enough training, causing the pilot to lose control of the aircraft because snow was building up on the wings. Here is the background of the captain's training. On May 11th, 2009, information was released about the captain's training record. According to an article in the Wall Street Journal, before joining Colgan, he had failed 3 check rides, including some at Gulfstream International's training program, and investigators suggested that he might not be adequately trained to respond to an emergency which had led to the fatal descent. The last minutes of the flight. Upon the last few minutes, as the pilot had lost complete control of the aircraft, Buffalo Approach didn't realize anything since Flight 3407 had been speaking with Approach the entire time. When Approach didn't see Flight 3407, he asked surrounding aircraft if they have spotted Flight 3407, and they had all replied saying no, no sight of the aircraft. For my interview, I interviewed Steve. Steve is a retired controller that had 25 years plus of experience in TRACON. The first question is, the the accident had already started in the pre-flight checklist. Do you believe that a fatigued co-pilot could have been a major deal to the cause of this? Steve has said, in all likelihood, fatigue did have an impact on the overall planning of this flight. The weather at the destination airport was getting worse, therefore placed an extra workload on the crew when planning their procedures. Unfortunately, the aircraft in this accident was prone to icing issues that factored heavily into this accident. Fatigue is always considered either on the controller and on the flight's own end. Question number 2. Knowing that this had impacted the aviation industry as a whole, how did this affect controllers? Steve had replied, not sure if this affected controllers, other than reminding controllers to issue all updated current weather PIREPs, which are pilot reports, also needs to be given to all aircraft. Question number 3. Do you think the pilots had proper training, judging the fact that the captain acted improperly and overrode the safety system? Steve had said, apparently the pilot training was less than adequate for this accident. This crew was new together, and their lack of understanding what was happening caused this. Their inability to work as a team contributed to the eventual accident. Question 4. Steve had Steve had said controllers would review their responsibilities for the obstructed weather, such as PIREPs, runway condition reports, latest weather info, etc. Question 5. Was this an accident that could have been avoided, and why? Steve said yes, most accidents can be avoided with proper planning. Crew teamwork and understanding the moment is crucial in flight.